Today on the Topping Show, the CEO of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, is leaving after all these years and being an original co-founder. McDonald's and Target to ban unsupervised teens from their stores. RFK Jr. is pushing to get red dyes and any dyes out of food, as well as set new standards. The Toyota Supra Final Edition is a coming and looks pretty cool. And the Dodge Charger website looks like a PlayStation 2, but not in a good way. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase. And yes, it does come with a fun Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more, or click the URL in the video description below. Lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part podcast, you have the final edition of Toyota Supra rolling off the assembly lines and starting to look pretty cool. Now, this comes to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Adrian, who's a writer over there. And they say, quote, "The final Toyota Supra is obscenely expensive. It costs more than a fully loaded BMW M4 Competition X-Drive," which is a very long name for a vehicle, but nevertheless, that is a BMW M4 Competition X-Drive. Bad marketing, but nevertheless, the Supra looks pretty darn cool. Probably about maybe 20 to 30 extra pieces of carbon fiber glued on there, or realistically, high quality 3M adhesive tape. Great company, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, it looks a lot cooler. Now they say, quote, "Toyota has several reasons for charging more for the Supra A90 Final Edition. Not only is it the end of the line for the current sports car, but it also brings a significant boost in power, among other hardware tweaks. The production capped to only 300 units for Europe and Japan. The exclusivity factor shouldn't be ignored either, given increasingly stricter emissions regulations in the what's the nice way of saying this, totalitarian hellhole of Europe." Well, they didn't say that, but I do. "There are many reasons why there might not be any more cars like this in the future. Nevertheless, is it worth a nearly 100% premium over a standard 6-cylinder model? Pricing for the Supra's swan song out of Germany, where the customers must fork out 142,800, well, they're euros. Such a childish thing, euros. Nevertheless, 142,800 euros. For reference, the regular 3-liter model begins at 73,250 euros, while the entry-level 2-liter version costs 63,250 euros. The final edition pricing is definitely not a typo. Heck, the car is even more expensive in France at 144,000 euros. Jesus Louise. French buyers must win the right to buy the vehicle by entering a lottery, which, I mean, when I think of the needs of a French buyer, they would probably need a very quick vehicle, but they only need it to go into one direction, reverse off the battlefield. Haha, political pun, as well as military. It's a joke. They're military and what I just said. But I'm sure they'll be good next year. They'll be strong and brave someday. they won't. But nevertheless, here's a rear view of the Supra, which, again, looks pretty sick. They say there are a lot of nice cars you could buy with that kind of money. A fully loaded BMW M4 Competition X-Drive is still cheaper than the Supra A90 Final Edition in Deutschland, but we can say the same for the Toyota V6 powered Lotus Emira with the bells and whistles, which, yeah, but it's also a Lotus, so the rest of the car will definitely fall apart pretty quickly. That starts, geez Louise, that's $141,700. Oh, euros for the Porsche Carrera T, which, yeah, if I won the lottery and I was looking at what to buy, the final send-off of the Supra, and this was not meant as an investment, it's actually meant to drive. I mean, I'd get the Carrera T. That's a track-focused car from the ground up. Again, I think a lot of people are going to buy this, are going to buy it because of the hype, and they think long-term will be a good investment, which, not financial advice. Historically speaking, vehicles are the worst financial investment ever. The only real ones that have ever gone up in value, realistically, with the outlier of COVID, well, you have the Ferrari GTO, the Pontiac GTO. There are a couple that beat like index funds like the S&P 500, but overall, it's not a winning idea. And you also have to worry about the storage, the maintenance, because even if you're not driving it, you have to make sure all the fluids are still working, all the seals aren't cracking, and you have to have insurance on it. So yeah, it's kind of annoying when people buy cars as investments, which take them out of the market of actually cars that can be driven. But at this price point and for this vehicle, I suspect a fair amount of them are being bought as an investment vehicle, which, again, ridiculous. Now, it looks like they have a couple more pictures up here. Well, let's see here. Again, for a final send-off edition, it looks great. Say, nevertheless, the last hoorah for the 5th generation Supra is still a bargain compared to the Alpine, what was this, Alpine A10R Ultimate. Renault's performance branch wants they want a luxurious 330,000 euro, making it the most expensive 4-cylinder ever. 330,000 euros for a 4-cylinder, which, again, I like 4-cylinders. My Honda Civic Si is awesome. I love downshifting into the corners, fun little turbo. But I also paid less than $30,000 for my Honda Civic Si. Again, imagine spending 330,000 euros for a 4-cylinder. I mean, who's buying that? I guess there's 3 people who might want that, but geez Louise. They say, as a refresher, the Supra A90 Final Edition doesn't get its BMW Superior S58 engine. It utilizes an upgraded B58, now making 429 horsepower instead of 482. Torque rises from 369 foot-pounds to 420 foot-pounds. The turbocharged 3-liter inline-6 is more potent than any BMW application to date, which seems a bit odd, which, yeah, BMW's kind of dropped the ball in some areas. Here you can see a couple more up-close pictures of it. Ew, it's so weird. The steering wheel's on the wrong side of the vehicle, but it is beautiful to see that nice manual transmission that has that gear selector right there. It's a rare and rare thing these days. And given the totalitarian government of Europe and all the weak people who do nothing to, about it, I mean, yeah, it's going to be harder, if not impossible, to sell cars like this in the hellhole of Europe. And hopefully they grow a pair, vote differently, protest peacefully, and let their opinion be known. But yeah, that's another reason why these final cars are going to be worth, again, not financial advice, but they might be worth more in the future. But getting back to the Toyota Supra, the final send-off edition, I mean, looks like they're going to get a lot of cool things. They're going to get the Gazoo Racing branding, got new wheels, new rims, Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires are 10% wider, has some more aero slammed on there. And sold, this is what I like most, sold only with the 6-speed manual transmission. So it's truly an enthusiast vehicle. So, and again, these are, I mean, some of those things where such a low quantity with only 300 being made, you can bet your bottom dollar these are already going to be massively overmarked by the dealerships. And again, it's kind of sad to see an end of an era with the Toyota Supra coming to an end. If the base car was a lot more affordable, I would have entertained it maybe. But again, it's not outside my price point of the current situation. But I still think the Toyota Supra is a pretty cool car. And it's nice that they do a nice final send-off edition. But let me know. I mean, do you think will European citizens actually grow a pair and stand up to the evil governments and say we want cars that are reliable, long-term, and can't be controlled remotely like EVs? And maybe we'll have some cool fun toys like this in the future for those areas. Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Part podcast, you have Jeremy Boring stepping down from CEO of the Daily Wire after co-founding the company all those years ago. Now, a lot of people are speculating, why is he stepping down after all these years? Is because, they've lost some of their top talent. Candace Owens left about a year ago. Then Brett Cooper famously left like 3 to 4 months ago. And the comment section without Brett Cooper is crashing like a Boeing assembled airplane. Haha, I guess dark humor and, assembly joke. Or, assembly manufacturing joke. But let's see. This comes actually straight from Jeremy Boring's profile on X, and he says, quote, a new chapter. And there's a article from Axios, which, I'll pull that up really quick, credited to Sarah Fisher, who's right over there. And they say, quote, Jeremy Boring, the co-founder of the Daily Wire, is stepping down from his role as co-CEO to focus on creative project for the company, which obviously a bullshit answer or bullshit statement, because he was already doing that for years. I mean, Lady Ballers was one of their biggest production films. Famously, he was the lead of that movie. He was the coach in that film. And he was it the Pendragon, Pinnacle, whatever they call the other little pet project. I mean, he was leading that project as well. I mean, focus on creative projects. He's been doing that for a while. Famously, he was also the major talent in the commercial for their Jeremy's razors, as well as for the Jeremy's chocolates. I mean, he's gotten a lot of screen time. But they say, oh yeah, he's going to focus on that even more. Yeah, I'm not buying that reason. And they say, quote, why it matters. Boring has been with the Daily Wire since its inception in 2015. He helped grow the outlet from a tiny startup with 4.7 million in seed funding to the media giant valued at $1 billion, which, yeah, the Wilkes brothers, that's probably, of all their investments, that's probably the best one. And again, media is the biggest crapshoot in terms of investments, kind of like book publishing. 99.999, you're going to lose your money. Not financial advice. But yeah, most of them are losers, physically speaking, some good people. But yeah, most media endeavors, they crash and burn epically. Now, they say, what's the state of play? They note that Caleb Robinson, the company's co-founder, will become the company's full-time CEO effective immediately. Robinson and Boring have been co-CEOs since 2019. They note that Robinson co-founded the company alongside with Boring and the outlet's editor emeritus, Ben Shapiro. Now, they say in a note to the staff, Boring said he'll remain with the company in an advisory role, which, yeah, that's also a very nice bullshit term of, I will get paid to do nothing or just be a figurehead that doesn't actually do much. And we've seen this from, I mean, it's no different than Fortune 500 companies when you have some subpar performance or you have some controversy where the CEO goes, they usually say the CEO is going to go spend more time with his family, which, yeah, it'd be hilarious if a CEO had the balls to just say, yeah, I messed up, I got fired. They would never say that. I mean, no one would do that. That'd be silly, but I mean, that's really what happens most of the time. But yeah, they say, yeah, well, that's the nice way of saying you're being escorted out of the company. Now, they say that he will continue to host the Daily Wire Backstage Show, the company's monthly show featuring Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Andrew Klavan. He will focus full-time on creative projects, including the completion of Daily Wire's TV series, The Pendragon. So that's what it's called, The Pendragon Cycle, which I don't know anyone who watches it, but I have heard of it. So maybe it has some viability as a product. Maybe. And so he's going to focus on that, which he serves as director and executive producer. You know that Boring has led the Daily Wire's commercial expansion over the past decade, growing the outlet from a social media publishing brand to a streamer to e-commerce giant. So we'll see what the future is. And this went pretty viral, got about 750,000 views as well as 4.1 thousand likes on his profile. One of the first comments is Julian Kondratsen saying, quote, Ben Shapiro watching people say Christ is king instead of sending money to Israel. And he's like, looks like an angry Amish kid. I don't know why I call it Ben. But nevertheless, I got 1.2 thousand likes. Tugboat to Sell says Nick won. Is that Nick's? Which Nick is that? Is that Fuentes? I think he's the most controversial, famous Nick out there. And they got 1.1 thousand likes. Jay Brown Nemo says, quote, Candace and Brett Cooper to the moon versus Jeremy Boring and Daily Wire, which is cratering. And they have little stock price ticker logos, which, yeah, statistically speaking, the Daily Wire, specifically the comment section without Brett Cooper, that channel's crashed to getting 12 to 13,000 views per video, which as an individual, that'd be awesome. For me, that'd be a personal record. As a business entity with 250 plus full-time employees, that's not sustainable as a channel. I don't think that'll be around much longer. That did get 364 likes. Cigars traveling, what the heck is this? Cigars / traveling / horse something. That's a long profile, but I guess you know what they do for hobbies. It says, didn't they figure out they can't gaslight MAGA anymore? Getting 654 likes. Adolph Washington says Israeli Wire down 6 million%, getting 500 likes. What's this? A lot of notes about Israel, which again, famously, Ben Shapiro is Israeli, or oh, no, he wasn't born there, but his faith is Israeli, or Israel? No. Jewish. Getting the words mixed up today. Nevertheless, Joseph says, quote, I don't know. I think you and Shapiro really hurt your company. I used to subscribe, but there's no diversity of thought any there. And I feel like anyone acts out of line, they're gone, getting 248 likes, which, yeah, famously, Candace Owens was, shown the front door or the back door, or she was escorted out. She's no longer there. And a lot of people suspect it's because of her clashes of ideology. And one of the biggest controversial things, it's fascinating. Everyone freaks out about it. But the topic of Israel, the Daily Wire famously, they have co-founders who are part of the company that's part of their faith as well as their background. And yeah, a lot of people on the show, in terms of political commentaries, Candace is more not supporting that initiative when it comes to funding and collaboration. And the closest they have in terms of not supporting Israel as a topic, or I guess as a country, that'd be Matt Walsh's. And Matt Walsh is very much in terms of politics and global relations. Matt Walsh is very much a fan of just let's take care of America first. He never critiques the other country though. So like that's the most controversial opinion they have at the Daily Wire, where Matt Walsh doesn't want to. He's very anti-inter. He doesn't want to interfere with other countries or support or hurt it. He just wants to be. Matt Walsh is really pushing for the political philosophy of isolationism. Jeez Louise. Click that subscribe button. It might help with my speaking impediment. When I first started the show, no subscribers, but, well, maybe my parents, but as I slowly but surely gain more subscribers, I've increased my speaking skills. Granted, some might argue it's just a statistical anomaly, barely anything at all. But, I mean, I used to stumble over my words worse than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs and speak faster than Ben Shapiro trying to speak. So, statistically speaking, I would argue there's been an improvement as I got more subscribers, which fuels my theory. The more people that subscribe, the better I'll speak, and someday make it through an entire episode speaking and articulating perfectly. So if you do me a favor, click that button, tell your friends. Greatly appreciate it. Now, you also have Steve Bacali saying, quote, looks like someone, no, geez Louise, didn't suck deep enough. What did you do? Did you suggest it's a bad idea to go to war with Iran for Israel and Ben heard about it? Or did you defend Christianity? Gained 342 likes. Heather Ann says, Da Bombers. She has a picture of Candace Owens getting 18 likes. You have Alexandria Jacob saying, quote, I mean, am I reading this wrong? Is everyone not as obsessed with Daily Wire and Jeremy as I am? He isn't leaving the company. He's just stepping down as co-CEO and looking to take on a role in developing creative projects. So she's standing up for Jeremy, which, again, he was already doing that, though. It's like, to me, that's the biggest red flag. He wants to be more in the creative projects. Not only was he starring in those projects previously, but he's also leading them. So, and again, you don't get pushed out of a CEO position for nothing. Now, that did get 180 likes as well. Now, I can't help but think, well, Myron Gaines also says, more like new book, Daily Wire kicked you out, and a story getting 826 likes, which, yeah. Yeah, if I were to guess or speculate as to what were the main reasons of why they're pushing him out, I think it was the comment section with Outbreak Cooper, that whole fiasco where, again, the way they handled it in the worst possible way, and the channel is by no means viable as a business. Granted, I know they get a lot of their money from the subscriptions from Daily Wire Plus, but the revenue for the Daily Wire on specifically the comment section channel has dropped so dramatically it will not even cover the host's salary. Yeah, look, and remember, it's not just that one her during the show. She also has a makeup guy, or more likely a gal. She also has a producer. She has an editor. She has social media people. I mean, it's an entire team per show of the Daily Wire portfolio. And at this point, they got to be losing money on that channel. Whereas previously, when Brett Cooper was there, it was one of the most fastest successful channels on the YouTube. So I think that was probably one of the biggest contributing factors of why Jeremy Boring is, quote unquote, stepping back or stepping to the side to spend time with his family and creative projects. But I don't know, there's lots of people suspecting, like, did he treat his employees the best? There's been rumors for years about that. But let me know. I mean, we'll probably cover some more in-depth theories later this week. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have McDonald's and Target stores banning unsupervised teenagers, and a trend we're seeing more and more. Now, this comes to us thanks to Wokeness on X, in which she says, quote, breaking, McDonald's and Target stores in Brooklyn officially ban unsupervised teens. These kids these days, I tell you, I mean, let's be honest, not too surprised. Now, this is also credited to, what is this? CBS Local? No, it's PIX13.com. I've never heard of that news outlet, but apparently they exist. And it looks like there's an interview with the local folks.
They make a mess. They make a mess. They're talking about drills and fighting, and I don't approve of that.
There's no disputing the reason why two of the more popular businesses in this Flatbush, Brooklyn neighborhood are banning teens 18 and younger who are not accompanied by an adult. Last month, we told you about the McDonald's on Flatbush Avenue, which did just that during after-school hours, following the lead of the Target store right around the corner, which implemented a similar ban around the clock.
I was assaulted in this Target right here. These children nowadays, they're doing smoking and they're attacking people. They're, stealing things and going in pockets and cutting pocketbooks.
Yep. Again, the cultural decline of the United States seemed to be accelerating as, well, I think the biggest contributing factor in these instances are shitty and or absent parents. And also not enough, what's a nice way of saying capital punishment or beating the crap out of your kid. a light hand can do a heavy amount of work, so to say. Again, if you let Johnny touch the stove once or the coffee maker once, I promise he won't do it again. Every once in a while, discipline, well, no, I would say all the time, discipline is key to success in life, especially as a developing child. I mean, one of the biggest issues with children these days is they have single parent households, which statistically speaking, they will be more likely to get into trouble and less likely to be successful long term. And it definitely doesn't help that the government also incentivizes those things. It's the reason I think the government does more harm than good in many instances, that being one of them. But yeah, I mean, the amount of not just vandalism, but also theft. And again, these companies are losing, Target lost over hundreds of millions of dollars in theft in 2024. They got to do something different. Now, granted, Target has a lot more data in terms of statistically who's doing the most theft in their stores and how they perhaps could mitigate that the most. I would guess the youth is a contributing factor. And it's something where, back in my day, we didn't do this shit. Pardon the French. I mean, back in my day, we didn't steal. Well, we stole intangible things like LimeWire, which is inevitably how you learn about, viruses and reformatting computers. And that's kind of how I got into IT. But when it comes to actual physical stores, I mean, shoot, I'm not the only person where the parents actually taught them to leave a place cleaner than when you first got there. I mean, that used to be the golden rule back in the day. It used to be the standard. And you would never steal anything. I mean, but you have all these places, and culturally, some people think it's cool or hip to steal stuff. Some places like California actually incentivize it by saying we basically won't charge you if it's under $950. To their credit, California, not that they deserve much, they did later reverse that law. More accurately, the people reversed that law, so they're trying to crack down on crime there. But yeah, when it comes to unsupervised teens, I mean, there's also the liability concern as well. So I'm not surprised that more places are starting to ban them from their presence. And this Pretty Vile got 2.7 million views and 61,000 likes. Now, one of the first comments comes from Thick Shelled Egg, which, fascinating. I'm not sure how an egg has the capability to type, but it does in fact have a picture of a chicken egg as a profile picture. And he says, quote, "If this is how they act in school, you can only imagine how badly they act out in public without any adult supervision." And here you can see some kids. Was this a lunch? Of course, not a single suit in sight. Men always look better when they suit up. It's never too young to start wearing a suit. That's what I always say. A lot of them wearing sweaters, and stupidly enough, I mean, on top of morality, they're wearing flip-flops and trying to kick someone, which technically, or anyone with a modicum of intelligence would tell you, yeah, that's not going to hurt too bad if it's a flip-flop compared to a nice New Balance shoe. But again, not necessarily, I'm not, advocating you should use New Balances in that way, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, these went very viral in 2024. We have all these school instances, and where are the parents? Where are the police? I mean, there are still some good folks out there that would stop this. I mean, in this case, I would be an advocate of saying, all right, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got about 10 kids fighting each other, trying to get the tear gas out. Won't kill them. Might actually make them grow as an individual, or maybe they'll learn a lesson, maybe someday. That got 424 likes. We also have Gunther Eagleman, who says, quote, "This is when you know it's bad. Would not have to do it if you put people in jail for committing crimes." Getting 1.1 thousand likes. True. That's also because of bad, appointed judges, activists, as well as the fact that these stores sometimes don't prosecute the crime. Which, again, if you want more crime, that's how you get more crime. You allow it to continue to happen, thereby incentivizing the action. Scrolling down more and more. You have Valentina Gomez saying, quote, "Little Criminals in the Making" getting 415 likes. Livercat Media TM says, quote, "There you have it. They ruined everything for the rest of us," getting 102 likes. Paul Zazupa says, quote, "Will Democrats ever discuss the impact of fatherlessness or not?" Getting 185 likes, which probably not, because they advocate for them, and I would argue gets more voters, gets more people dependent on the system when you have single parent households that get government incentives, while they're going to vote for a bigger government because the government's giving them cash for doing nothing. And they also have, they really have, I mean, statistically speaking, they don't get off the programs enough. It's one of those age-old sayings, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I debate if there's actually ever good intentions at all, but you could argue the intention was to have these temporary programs to assist people in their time of need. For many, though, it's turned into a lifestyle, which is ridiculous. You have someone by the name of Dissident West saying, quote, "Unsupervised teams, I think you know who they're really trying to ban," getting 2.4 thousand likes, which would be anyone under 18. You also have Gage Harrison saying, quote, "Pretty much every business I go to, I see a sign that says no one under 18 supervision allowed. I remember chilling everywhere with my friends when I was a kid. Kids nowadays don't know how to act. Again, 1.1 thousand likes. True. Kids back then, also statistically speaking, didn't steal as much. I know I stuttered a lot, but if you click that subscribe button, it might help. Joshua says, quote, McDonald's is going full-blown segregationist. I had Grok depict the situation, and this is what it came up with, which that's also an AI search engine. But in this picture, it does say, pretty distasteful joke. Gotta laugh, though. It says, no Mick colored allowed. In this picture of an African-American woman. And standing outside McDonald's, getting 172 likes. Chris Langman says, quote, good luck. I once worked for New York businesses requiring by law to ban teens, and that was a youths. Youths? Without ID, these businesses were called bars and nightclubs. First, youths would threaten retaliation in the form of drive-bys in which they were they promised to be spraying, getting 2.8 thousand likes. So they promised to be spraying. You also have Jesus Lives Ether Matters. I might be mispronouncing that, though not on purpose, saying, quote, this generation of teens have not matured emotionally or mentally. Improper parenting does this. Spare the rod and spoil the child. No discipline does this. Marxist education does this. Spoiled rotten. Getting 70 likes. Fact check true. David Santa Carlos says, quote, you can have unsupervised teens or functional society. You may not have both. Getting 303 likes. You also have Yeti saying, quote, raise your kids better and they wouldn't have to do this, but you didn't. So here it is, getting 214 likes. There's a bunch of video compilations of teenagers beating the crap out of each other in public places like restaurants. Or as I believe as the Urban Dictionary would say, or Youth Dictionary would say, act like a fool. So we'll see if this has any negative impact on the business in terms of potentially lost sales, or if it actually helped the business because there'll be less theft, less damage, less possible lawsuits. And again, with all these businesses suffering, because again, these businesses are losing more and more money from shoplifting, as well as property damage, we'll see if this trend actually spreads across the United States or stays isolated to these cities. Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have RFK Jr. pushing to get dyes out of foods, as well as set new standards. Now, this comes with thanks to Benny Johnson, which should have gone more viral. I'm a little disappointed it didn't. It got about 200,000 views, as well as 13,000 likes. And, well, RFK Jr. could say it infinitely better. Oh, actually, no. That could be a debate in the comments. Who could say it better, my stuttering or RFK Jr.'s groggly voice? Who is more difficult to understand or comprehend? Maybe I should do a poll on them on the YouTube.
We told them that we wanted the dyes out of the food. The science on the dyes is so overwhelming. They're making products now in this country that have the dyes in them, like Fruit Loops, for example. And you buy the same product in Canada and it doesn't have the dyes. You buy the same product in Europe and it doesn't have the dyes. So there are a lot of ingredients, and one of the things that we're doing is we've launched a review of the GRAS standards, and we're going to get rid of the GRAS standards for most products. The GRAS standards is a standard that was adopted in 1958. It was adopted because when FDA was created to regulate food, there were foods that were generally recognized as safe, GRAS, generally recognized as safe, like flour, like dairy, like eggs. And they didn't want to make companies test those products, so they created that designation. But that designation was expanded by an industry that began taking advantage of it, so that any new chemical that they want to add to our food is generally recognized as safe and gets no review. That's why we have 10,000 ingredients in our food in this country. In Europe, they only have 400. And we have the worst chronic disease burden of any country in the world. So we are going to get rid of the GRAS standards for new products. We're going to go back and review all of these old ingredients to make sure that they are safe. And we're going to encourage these companies to get rid of them as quickly as possible.
And one would think every American would be united in this idea. Let's take a look at our food. Let's take a look at why is the United States the most chronically ill country on the planet. One would think that would unite all of us. Of course, it hasn't, and leftists are freaking out left and right, calling RFK Jr. all types of names. Now, Going to the top comments here, you also have anti-woke memes or memes saying, quote, make America healthy again. It's a picture of RFK Jr. and Trump shaking hands, getting 30 likes, which, again, is one of those things where one would think this would not be political, but again, Kamala Harris, well, perhaps one of the most mentally vacuous individuals in the U.S., she did not take the meeting with RFK Jr. Trump is smart. He made deals, and he saw what RFK Jr. is bringing to the table. And I had a lot of my friends who didn't like Trump, but they love RFK Jr. They love Maha. They voted for Trump because of RFK Jr. So yeah, it's one of the things where RFK Jr. went to both sides of the political aisle, say, hey, I want to make America healthy again. Interesting. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. The side that gets most of their donations from people who work at Big Pharma were saying, yeah, no way, we don't want him. Now, you also have anti-woke memes seeing LMFAO, and it's the Samsung or it's the Android meme, where it's a pregnant man and says RFK Jr. is a science denier, getting 15 likes. You have anti-left memes saying, would you watch this movie? And it's a picture of RFK Jr. says, no country for seed oils, getting 23 likes. So you also have Doge AI saying, quote, RFK Jr. is spot on target, bloated and food safety food standards. Another example of bureaucratic overreach. The GRAS loophole has set Big Pharma and processed the food giants pump harmful additives into our food supply for decades, all under the guise of safety. Getting 40 likes. Yeah, Floater 1 says, RFK Jr. needs to be much more aggressive, educate Americans on the diabetes disaster, speak of the cure through a low-carb, high-fat diet. That got 11 likes, which, yeah, that is one of the biggest issues in the United States is diabetes. Or if you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, you pronounce it diabetes, which I do. You also have Nam Nam saying Maha, and someone looking at a girl, and the guy is labeled diabetes, obesity, autism, allergies, depression, and the girl's people. And RFK Jr. steps in and says Maha and stops him, getting 4 likes. Let's see here. Stop Socialist Tyranny. And does have a cool profile picture of a Lego man saying, quote, love RFK Jr.'s talk on food safety. Getting rid of the toxic dyes is a great start. This is what leadership really looks like, putting people over profits and special interest. Make America healthy again is more than just a slogan. It's a movement on RFK Jr. leading the charge, getting 5 likes. Now, one of the wisest men, I would argue, of our generation, certainly of our time, actually, because he's older than me, would be Thomas Sowell, in which one of my favorite quotes is, there are no such thing as solutions, only trade-offs. Now, again, I love the idea of getting our food as healthy as possible. The only concern I have is the cost. Now, I know obviously there's a cost to healthcare and chronic pain. Now, very unique to the United States, we have some of the cheapest food on the planet. When you look at the amount of income that Americans spend as a percentage on their food, relative to the globe, it is very, very cheap. Now, I know we've had record inflation past couple of years, but historically, it's just some of the cheapest food on the planet. So I always do wonder, are these dyes and other things being introduced to the food because it is cheaper than natural alternatives? Or is it more malicious to make us sick? Or is it just out of convenience? Or is it just the marketing department saying we need that certain hue of red dye in the Fruit Loops? Which, again, you look at the Fruit Loops in other countries, which it's funny, that's been one of the biggest reference points, I think, because so many people they've had it at least once in their lifetime. But yeah, if you look at the same looking box with ingredients and the inside and the actual food, in other countries, it looks quite different. They're not really Cheerios, they're loops of fruit. Well, I was going to say not really fruit, let's be honest, a derivative of fruit. But yeah, in other countries, the colors are not as vibrant, they're much more dull. Therefore, the kids wouldn't like it as much, perhaps. That's what the marketing department is saying. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly these food companies can pivot, and if there's any impact. Will they miss the taste, or maybe it'll be psychosomatic? Maybe it's just in your head in terms of the taste and the dye and the color correlation. But let me know your overall thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have the Dodge Charger website as mediocre as a Dodge Charger in and of itself. Now, this comes to us thanks to Motor1.com, in which they talk about the new Dodge Charger EV, and it is credited to Chris Smith, and they say, yeah, website looks like a PlayStation 2, but not in a good way. Now, they say, quote, Dodge launched a new Charger Daytona website, and it's comically bad. Let me actually get a picture of this abomination, which, yeah, it looks like a bastardized PlayStation 2 game. Now, this is thanks credited to Chris Smith, and he says, quote, there's a new Dodge Charger electric out there for all 18 idiots who want it. I'm kidding, I added that last part. Now, he says, you may have heard about it, being electric and all. To ensure everyone is in the know about the 2025 Charger Daytona, Dodge launched a special interactive website that looks like it uses a web design template straight out of Y2K. Now, they say you can see it yourself at dodgechargerportal.com. If you want to get to it to load, it might take some minutes to get to do that. Often hanging up and getting stuck at 50 to 86% for several minutes at a time. Which, yeah, here's a picture of it and actually not loading on the iPhone. Which, did they just, how do you mess that up so it won't even load properly? Like even a small business can get a website to just load quickly. Just throw it on Cloudflare, you know, some of the major hosts. It's pretty darn simple. And yet they couldn't even make it load properly in many instances. And they say, we checked our dial-up to make sure it was cooking at full 56K. Then remembered we're wired to 1 gigabyte Ethernet connection. And yet here we are hovering at 86%. So yeah, that's the age-old blame game in IT. It's the network. You know, always run the check yourself. And more often than not, it's actually not the network. And here they confirmed it's not because they have an old dial-up from the 1990s. It's legit on the, I was about to say the manufacturer. Well, not just the manufacturer, but the host site. It's on their end. And they say, quote, when it does load, you're greeted with a Garrett who's standing by the car as a virtual tour guide. They say swipe around, you'll see a Dodge Charger Scat Pack, the Daytona RT, a cover which may or may not be a Banshee. And there's other videos, which, let's just bring that crap up here. Which, again, if they're actually going for nostalgia, and they did it right, I would argue this would have been a brilliant marketing tactic, but it looks like it's just lazy design. And here you can see, it's almost as if they have a real person that cut it out like a South Park, put it into an animation, and you can see the Dodge Charger over the background. Again, whoever they paid to do this got paid way, way too much. Let's see here. If we go to that, oh, Dodge Charger EV. Jeez. So all 18 people who really wanted to see this car and maybe configure it, they actually can't. Which, for a New York minute at a New York, I almost thought it was Snoop Dogg for a second. He endorses darn near every product on the planet. Why not do this one? But no, it's not him. Then I say, quote, to Dodge's credit, the company is trying like hell to get people excited about their Daytona. The car isn't slow and doesn't look bad. When the website works, you see the full information and there's a car under the cover. Clearly a teaser for a bigger, more powerful one. So yeah, it seems like they can't do anything right with this Charger. And again, I can't help but suspect there's going to be a copious amounts of dust on dealership parking lots on these things as they move so slowly. But yeah, when you have a new product launch where, again, they want this to work, and yet they seem to be failing every step of the way. But yeah, we'll see if it actually sells. However, having a website that doesn't work for a car that barely anyone wants, gotta say, Dodge, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I really appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.